Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and you might be wondering right out of the gate, Tess, you're a fashionable boy, why the shabby chic approach with the half done up tie? Well, it's because, as you can perhaps infer by the title of this video and the flag that I'm standing in front of in no particular order, it's the turn of Estonia to come under the hexagonal scrutiny, which I recognise once again doesn't directly address my choice of costume, but trust me, it's relevant. Because this year, Estonia will once again be represented by Mr. Uku Suviste, this year with a song called The Lucky One, which is a very fitting title for reasons we'll delve into shortly. It's presented fully in English once again. It was produced by Dimitris Kontopoulos, but nowhere seems to acknowledge this, but music by Uku himself, and lyrics by Sharon Vaughan once again. Like I said, she's kind of everywhere these days. Anyway, yeah, Estonia. Let's have a talk. Well, bearing in mind I didn't watch Eesti Laul this year, I still get the feeling that I understand why Uku won. I mean, sure, poetic justice and everything, after everything he's been through in the past year, but I was also impressed by his use of the stage, and the stage itself. Like, damn, Estonia, you could actually host an entire present-day Eurovision in a venue like that, even under current circumstances. I'm impressed. Anyway, the other two big things that leapt out at me this time are, I feel this song really undersells his voice, and this is kind of a future nostalgia tribute that tries to sneakily recycle the melody and chord progression from his entry from last year. Seriously, I spent about half the performance when I was first listening to it, just racking my brain to the effect of, I know this tune, I recognise this from somewhere, where have I heard it? Wait, is he alluding to his own dang song? It's not plagiarism by any means, but it is, reminiscent? Or is it just me being crazy again? That is a distinct possibility. In any case, though, whether or not you compare this song to his offering last year, which I don't intend to, and I recommend that you don't either, one of the biggest strengths of this song is that it presents a surprisingly deep, interesting, and timely story within its lyrics. That is to say, it's so much more mindful and introspective than your standard breakup song. This song isn't just, oh, this isn't working out, oh, bye-bye, baby. It has more thought, more consideration for, this is how it makes me feel, this is what we've got, this is the effect it's having, etc. I can appreciate that. That's more thought than the average song has put into it. There's something inherently contemporary, I find, about lyrics that delve a bit deeper into the psychology of relationships like that. And I dare say the soundscape of this song backs that up nicely too. While I maintain that it does seem a little bit bandwagony with respect to the whole retro synth throwback idea, I do think that it does stand sufficiently on its own, especially in the studio version. In that sense, it combines several different eras, really. There's the synth stylings of the 80s, the boy band ballad ideas of the 90s, and the musical and lyrical sensibilities of the 21st century. And that presents it as a surprisingly complete package that works remarkably well. What I find to be heartening, off the back of all of that, is that it 100% translates very well into a live performance. Having seen the Eesti Laul performance, I have to give Uku mad credit for how thoroughly and compellingly he owns the stage. Further, as far as the camera is concerned, he was as alone as he was singing about feeling, and yet, despite that, his presence was still enough to more than fill the stage, both physically and vocally. That's a great sign by itself, but the staging itself also showed a lot of promise for what we could expect to see in Rotterdam. There's the imagery with the chains, there's the combination of live effects and the LED background and how he jumps between them for narrative effect. It didn't feel like it cheapened the authenticity of the performance at all. Even stuff as simple as the whole choice of costume, which I said I'd be getting to. The whole untied bow tie, the disheveled shirt, all of it. Clearly, a lot of thought went into this, and it really honestly shows. Bravo, Uku! I tip my hat to you and your whole team. Still, there's no such thing as the perfect song that pleases all the people all the time, so let's spare a thought for people who don't like this song and think about what they perhaps might not like about it. One thing that I find is that, for all the praise I heaped upon the Eesti Laul performance, I will say, it kinda does serve to highlight that this song doesn't stretch Uku quite as far as we know that he's capable of. Uku's a talented vocalist with some really impressive capabilities, but this song rather prominently seems to just lack the gumption to showcase that. True, pushing it too hard would seem gimmicky and unnecessary, but this almost feels like it's going too far the other way, that he's playing it far too safe. Again. Also, the opening lyrics of the song call for a particularly deep register, which is difficult to nail at the best of times, and I feel like his national final performance didn't quite make it feel like that stylistic choice particularly paid off. Granted, it didn't hit me anywhere near as profoundly in the studio version, so it may just be a question of acoustics or rehearsals or preparation on the night, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. Low notes are not something to mess with lightly unless you're certain you can make them work for you, and at the moment, it seems like a bit of a coin toss, to be honest. And finally, while I praise the overall story and thoughtfulness behind the lyrics, and I do stand by that, I do find that there are some moments here and there that pull me back out of the experience a bit. The bigger picture of the song is an elegant, considerate, modern interpretation of a breakup song. But if you focus on the minutiae, there are some lines that kind of stick out as just being a means to an end, or awkward for the sake of a rhyme, that sort of thing. And that I find to be something of an Achilles heel here. If it's any consolation, those moments are few and far between, but when they do crop up, they really make themselves known. But hey, that could well just be a me thing, so honestly, don't even worry about it. But maybe consider it, but don't worry about it. For now, let's distill everything into a nice, juicy number. All things considered, I think I'll give the song a personal score of 8 out of 10. It isn't something that I find myself itching to come back to all that often, but when it's on, I do really enjoy it. The studio version is presented very compellingly, it's got an all-encompassing synth soundscape that makes it really feel complete, especially with headphones, and the live performance brought clever practical effects and stylistic decisions that honestly made it stand out to me. My main fear with this, though, is another case of damnation by faint praise. When it's on, I rather enjoy this song, but when it's done and gone, I tend to forget that it's even there. That's a shame, I know, because, like I said, 8 out of 10, but that's just how it goes. It entertains me, but it doesn't wow me. To that end, I think a technical 7 out of 10 is fair. Musically, it's a solid presentation, and it's rather ambitious in some areas, in terms of nuances of its lyrics and the intention of the deeper vocals of the opening, but its downfall is kind of the sum of a few small parts. For one thing, there are the little lyrical choices here and there, like I am wide awake and not a dreamer, which does admittedly have a clever double meaning, but in context, it sounds a bit awkward. And then there's the issues, like I mentioned before, with nailing the deeper vocals live, coupled with the whole thing being incidentally less spectacular and memorable, even with the impressive staging concept, and all capped off with the notion that I mentioned earlier that the melody and chord progression strikes me as extremely, if nothing else, mash-upable with his previous song. Still, it's by no means a bad thing. Uku can very much be proud of himself for this one. It's just as I said, these little things that sort of stick out to me. In spite of everything though, when it comes to considering the Estonian broadcasters' conduct in the wake of the pandemic, they have to bear a failing grade in my opinion. To reiterate, this has nothing to do with the song, I'm speaking purely here about the treatment of Uku as their incumbent representative at the time of the cancellation of the 2020 contest. The fact that he won the national final this year is a fortunate coincidence, fittingly enough considering the title of his song. But seriously, after they announced the cancellation of the 2020 edition, it wasn't going to go ahead, it looked to us as viewers like the Estonian broadcaster just dropped Uku without so much as a kiss goodbye, perhaps partly due to the lukewarm public reception to his song at the time. Sure, they at least allowed him to take part in Eesti Laul 2021, and great, he won, poetic justice, but he had to apply like everyone else. He didn't get any recognition for having won last time, they didn't even give him a free pass into the final. Imagine how poorly it would have reflected on the Estonian broadcaster if he'd crashed and burned in the semi-finals after, winning last year and being told, sorry, your prize doesn't exist anymore, so you get nothing. That's how it looks to the outside world. And to an extent, how it looks is a bit more important than how it is, because most viewers aren't going to care about how it is if they think they know how it is based on how it looks. If you're still following me, let's just move on. Anyway, as for whether or not this song will qualify to the final, well, there are two things working in Estonia's favour here. From the inside, there's their clear and intelligent approach to staging the song, provided they don't oversell it on the night, and from the outside, there's the fact that they compete in semi-final 2. It's not that semi-final 2 is by any means weak, but rather it's considered to be much more open than semi-final 1, so Uku is significantly less at risk of being swallowed up by his competitors. For what it's worth, I think the song definitely will have its fans, much like Victor Krone did in 2019. If nothing else, that qualified, so I think this does stand a decent shot at the final too. When all's said and done though, I could see this landing anywhere between 7th and 13th on the scoreboard in the semis, so it really could go either way. The power is very much in Uku's hands to make or break this song as he sees fit, and if it goes his way, well, I'd be very happy for him personally, but it's not just up to me, it is also up to you, lovely people! As always, listen to the song for yourself, come to your own conclusions. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree? Do you have any other ideas as well as what I've already said? Share them in the comments below if you feel that way inclined. To Mr. Uku Suviste and to Team Estonia, I wish you the very best of luck when you hit the stage in Rotterdam, and I expect to be impressed if you bring even half as much as what you brought to the national final this year.